episode 8 of Eye on Horror. We're back. Heard you missed us. I'm your host, James J. Edwards, and with me, as always, on the right of my Skype screen is Jacob Davison. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing good, and happy to be back.
Happy to be back. We're all happy to be back. And on the left of my Skype screen is our road warrior home in Los Angeles, Jonathan Correa. How you doing?
Doing a lot better. I'm very exhausted. It's been a long few months, but I'm happy to be home. And sorry again to you guys and all of our listeners for missing a week, which for us is 2 weeks. So that's been, 4 weeks? But as you know, life happens. But we're back, and we have a lot to cover today, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot. So let's jump right into some news. The first fun thing of news is, and this is kind of old news because, you know, we haven't talked to you guys in a month. Lucifer has been picked up by Netflix. So one of the shows that hit the butcher's block has been saved. Hopefully the same will happen to The Exorcist, but Lucifer, at least, is coming back.
I mean, I hope so for Exorcist. I think that's a more unlikely scenario due to a lot of, like, the rights and everything. But yeah. I am glad to hear that Lucifer's back. It's also interesting because Lucifer is technically a DC property. It's based off of a Vertigo comic book series, I believe. So it'll be interesting that Netflix, who has, you know, all the deals with Marvel and everything, now owns a DC show.
Yeah, that is interesting because they've got, because they have a bunch of Marvel stuff going on that is probably the biggest thing they have going on, at least until Orange is the New Black, you know, blows it all out of the water again. Because now that House of Cards, what's going on with House of Cards?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it got spaceyed.
Yeah. So. And conversely, Fox also just announced that they're canceling that show Ghosted with Craig Robinson and Adam Scott, which is unfortunate because I was really starting to get into it, kind of like a more satirical X-Files, and I think it was really starting to catch its stride, but sadly, as is the way of good one-season shows, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't give new TV shows much of a chance to find an audience these days. They, you know, you're lucky to get a season sometimes, so.
Yeah. I mean, when it came to Ghosted, I think I tried watching, like, the first couple episodes and just couldn't get into it, but I could see how a lot of people would really like it, so. But the good thing, especially nowadays with streaming and everything, most new TV shows, even if they do get canceled, they always will find an audience, unless, of course, you're talking about a Muppets property, in which case Disney will bury that. With all the shows that have been canceled lately, we have a few that have been announced as well. I mean, they're starting to develop a Chucky series, and also, for me at least, way more excited. As much as I love the Chucky series as much as the next, but Clive Barker's Nightbreed is supposedly getting a TV show.
On the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah, that's more exciting for me, too. I mean, I don't see how Chucky is going to be. I mean, they'll probably find a way to do it, but Nightbreed, I think, is going to make a great TV show.
I think it's one of those things, too, where I feel like a popular thing right now is turning movies into TV. And in some of these cases, I feel like the stories work better as a TV show. Like, I think Nightbreed would really work well as a TV show as opposed to the movie, which I love. But, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do with kind of a serialized format and, you know, more in an open-ended network like the Sci-Fi Channel. Because I was actually thinking, you know, that Nightbreed in particular has a lot of relevance today.
Well, not only that, but it's got some great world building with, you know, just the one movie Clive Barker was able to make. There was such incredible, like, I wanted to see more of this world that he built with these characters, and you know, so seeing that serialized, I think, would be great. For Chucky, though, I don't want a serialized Chucky show. If anything, kind of want them to do like a Freddy's Nightmares Tales from the Crypt with Chucky hosting. Like, just think about, you know, Chucky as a host and he tells scary stories. It would make so much sense. Like with that, what was that bear toy? Remember back in the day that you would put in the cassette and it would tell you a
Teddy
story?
Ruxpin.
Oh yeah, Teddy
Ruxpin, basically. So it'd kind of be like a twisted, dark version of that, where it's like Chucky's here to tell you another story, kiddies. You know, I think that'd be fucking awesome.
The thing about Nightbreed is not only you said you want to see more of that world, I want to see more of those characters, because there are so many colorful monsters that, you know, maybe they each got one scene and then they're just shifted off to the side. So, you know, I want to see more of the monsters. So yeah, that hopefully they do it right. Another and this is also again old news, but they've completed the cast of the Losers Club for it. The final piece of the puzzle is Isaiah Mustafa as Mike. He is the Old Spice guy, the look at me, look away, look at me again. You know, he's that guy, and he is playing Mike Hanlon.
Damn, they're getting the likenesses down like perfectly with all of these, and I'm really excited to see what our Old Spice guy can do, because, well, first of all, when I think person of Old Spice, I think Bruce Campbell when he first started being the original Old Spice guy. So that's kind of cool that it's doing like a flip. Like Bruce Campbell was the horror guy and then became the Old Spice guy. Now the second Old Spice guy is now getting into horror.
Yeah. Another bit of casting news, which this is also old news, but we haven't really been talking about it because it's kind of fringe horror adjacent. But I'll still fight anyone who tries to tell me The Hateful Eight's not a horror movie. But the new Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they've been pretty loose with the cast on that. And, I mean, a lot there's some of the same usual Tarantino suspects. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt, who have both worked with him before, are in the leads. And Kurt Russell is also cast, as well as Tim Roth, who is as close to a muse as QT's got, I think, and Zoe Bell, who from Death Proof and also Hateful Eight. Michael Madsen's also got a role in it. No Samuel L. Jackson, which is the second closest thing I think that QT has to a muse.
He'll fit him in there somehow, like he did with Inglourious Bastards, you know.
Yeah, he'll find some way to do it. But some of these other roles, like the movie, if you haven't heard about it, it is supposedly set in Hollywood around the time of the Tate LaBianca murders, the Manson family murders. So the way I'm envisioning it, though, I think it's going to be kind of like Summer of Sam, where it's not really about the murders, but it's going to be taking place at the same time, so that shadow is going to be over the whole story. And Margot Robbie is playing Sharon Tate, and Dakota Fanning is playing Squeaky Fromm, which means that the Manson murders are going to be in it in some capacity, because Squeaky Fromm was one of the family. James Marston is also, I think he'd make a great Tex Watson. I don't know if that's where they're putting him. Al Pacino and Burt Reynolds are both in this thing. Luke Perry.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's probably my favorite casting. It's just like, hell yeah, and we got all these great names. Kurt Russell, Leonardo DiCaprio, Luke Perry. What?
But if you think about it, Luke Perry, that kind of comes out of nowhere, but so did Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And it jump-started his career. So, and I think he tried to do the same thing for Don Johnson on Django Unchained, but it didn't quite work as well as it did for Travolta. But also Don Johnson never really went away either. So, Travolta was doing nothing when Pulp Fiction, and then all of a sudden, you see him in Face Off, and,
But still, Luke Perry, I think that's some pretty brilliant casting, and I think we're due for Luke Perry sans, or right? Isn't that the new thing?
I'm down. What else we got news-wise?
Well, speaking of King adaptations, I know we're jumping back a little bit. Wow, what a great time to be a King fan, and especially if you hate reading books, so many adaptations.
Yeah.
So two of the writers of The Quiet Place started, I think they sold, and it's being developed, an adaptation of The Boogeyman, which is a short from King's 1978 anthology Night Shift, which has been adapted to varying capacities multiple times over the years. But
The Boogeyman has?
I don't know. Right? I think The Boogeyman has been adapted once or so.
There are other The Boogeyman movies. I don't know if they're the Stephen King one, but there are other stories from Night Shift that have been adapted. Is that what you're talking about?
I believe so, yeah. Because I know there was one specific Night Shift movie, and then there was a few where it was just one or two of the stories, and it's hard to keep up. There's so...
Yeah, there was a Night Shift anthology, yeah. Right.
And there was that Nightmares and Dreamscapes TV miniseries on USA.
It's hard to keep up with so many adaptations and sequels, and fucking Ewan McGregor was just casted in Dr. Sleep to play Danny Torrance.
And Rebecca Ferguson just got cast. That just broke, maybe even this morning. Rebecca Ferguson has got the female lead in Dr. Sleep. So it is a good time to be. And Mike Flanagan is, Stephen King must have liked what he did with Gerald's Game because he's directing Dr. Sleep. So he's one of the more exciting modern horror voices.
But it's interesting because I mean, how many times have we gushed about Mike Flanagan's work? And a lot of people in my circle know how much of a man crush I have on Ewan McGregor. and yet I cannot get excited for Dr. Sleep. For me, I think Shining, it's a decent book, but I think Kubrick's adaptation was absolutely phenomenal and like improved on it so much. And just
Me too.
King's attitude with it, like, I get it. He's come out and said that book was like him processing and kind of coming forward and kind of dealing with his alcoholism and what he did to his family with his addictions to alcohol and cocaine, and that he felt like he was demonized because of that. He felt demonized due to Kubrick's adaptation. But like ever since then, he's been on this weird campaign. Like he made the miniseries in the 90s that was absolutely terrible. I mean, Jesus Christ, those CGI moving bushes. And then the ending with the graduation made me want to puke.
Well, that was more like the book, though. I think that Stephen King had problems with some of the liberties that Kubrick took with the book, but what he didn't understand is that Stanley Kubrick made The Shining cinematic. I mean, The Hedge Maze is way more cinematic than Topiary Animals.
Right.
Kubrick took the shell of the story, basically, and he made it into a movie. And I'm not so sure that Stephen King understands the visual language of cinema. I mean, that would explain Maximum fucking Overdrive. But
hey, Maximum Overdrive is a classic.
Hey, I love Maximum Overdrive, but it is not a good movie.
No, I think Maximum Overdrive is explained by what you just said, King's misunderstanding of cinematic language, but also cocaine. Like, just
absolutely.
Have you seen that teaser? It's the greatest.
Oh yeah,
it is an amazing.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
Everyone listening right now, including you two, because I'm definitely doing it. When we're done listening to this and done recording it, watch that teaser because it's just King coked out of his fucking mind, talking to the thing, going, there's been so many adaptations of my works, and people keep fucking it up. So I decided to make my own. And then it's just like music by AC/DC. And it's like, wait, what the shit's going on here? And why is Emilio Estevez in this?
I mean, that whole production, I mean, you're right. I think the whole thing was Maximum Overdrive brought to you by cocaine. Because didn't the DP lose an eye or something?
Yeah, and
the lawnmower stunt or something went wrong?
Yeah, like some splinters got him in the face. And funny, I was actually just talking about Maximum Overdrive because, for one thing, Emilio Estevez was not King's first choice. He wanted to get Bruce Springsteen as a lead.
Yes.
I kid you not.
This is the only way you could have improved that movie.
Well, now I want to make a remake. I want to see a remake of Maximum Overdrive with Springsteen in the Emilio Estevez role.
New life goal is to make
that. And back on news, the trailers just dropped for The Predator and Mandy.
Okay.
So, starting off, the trailer for The Predator looks really cool.
That's an understatement.
It is an understatement. It looks super fucking cool.
There you go.
we get a better look at kind of the cast, and also the revelation that there is a super predator.
Yeah.
The ultimate predator. For now.
Yeah.
Until the predator returns.
So we'll see kind of how that ends up. But either way, we're looking forward to that one. And still got a September 14th release date. But the real prize I want to talk about, at long last, the trailer for Panos Cosmatos' Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage at his most pure.
At his cagiest.
Most cagiest, yeah.
At his most pure cagiest. So, yeah, we get to see, like Nicolas Cage is like living out in the woods with his wife, and things seem peaceful, and then this evil cult like descends upon him and like kidnaps his wife, and so he loses his goddamn shit, and he forges a massive sword. He arms himself with a crossbow, and at the end of the trailer it teases a chainsaw duel.
Oh, speaking of Bruce Campbell, is Nick Cage trying to be Ash?
That would make an interesting sequel, remake, alternate universe?
I would like to think that, because again, all I've seen is the trailer, but like I think Cage was very, especially with the chainsaw bits, channeling Dennis Hopper and Texas Chainsaw Massacre too with that. There was definitely a lot of screaming and chainsaw fights. I was like, fuck yeah, someone's been watching TCM2 a lot lately.
Yeah, no, just that whole thing where like somebody asked Nicolas Cage like what happened or what he's going to hunt, and he just kind of builds up and just like crazy evil.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited for that one. That one also comes out September 14th.
That sounds like it's going to be a great week to be at the movie theaters. And I mean, I love Cajun genre films is very hit or miss, because for every Drive Angry he does, he's made a Wicker Man movie. So, I mean, but this looks like it's going to be more so in the Drive Angry. But I don't know. I have a soft spot for Drive Angry. I know a lot of people don't like it, but just Cage saying, I'm going to drink beer out of your skull. And then he literally does that at the end of the movie. Just like tickles my fancy so much.
Yeah, I still need to see that one. But also the fact that this is Panos Cosmatos' new movie in like 8 years.
What else has he done?
Well, his other and first movie was Beyond the Black Rainbow, which personally was probably one of my favorite genre movies of the 21st century. Yeah, so it's been a while, but I am just super fucking stoked for this, just based off that trailer alone. And it looks metal as hell. It's got like a really heavy soundtrack. And like that's, and the title is pure metal cover font. Like it it looks like an alternate Leviathan album cover.
Very Deathgasm.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of trailer soundtracks, what we were talking about last episode, the Suspiria trailer and the soundtrack. It was literally the afternoon that we recorded, like almost just as we signed off, when I found out, because we were talking about, we didn't know who the music was by. Tom York is scoring that movie. So from what I understand, the music in that is from the Tom York score. So I'm not a huge Radiohead fan, but between Johnny Greenwood's You Were Never Really Here score and what little I've heard from Suspiria from Tom York, those guys are killing it.
Oh yeah.
That's exciting that it's someone I'm familiar with, because I was thinking that it was just going to be some guy out of left field, but also that it's someone, I mean, Tom York is more than just the I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo guy. You know, he's, and a lot of people think that he rides Johnny Greenwood's coattails in Radiohead, but this has proven that he is a talent of his own. So I'm excited to hear that entire score, because if the trailer is any indication, he's crushing it. So that'll be fun.
Oh hell yeah!
What else we got news wise? There's a bunch of new Scream Factory releases that
there
been announced. Scream for Help is coming out, which is awesome.
Yes.
Scream for Help is just one of those. I just remember it from my youth, kind of along the lines of like Lisa, you know, those ones that you remember seeing on HBO at 2 a.m. Along the lines of Texas Chainsaw, The Next Generation, they also are releasing, Jacob knows where I'm going with this, they're releasing The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, in a collector's edition, which...
Pazuzu!
I'm officially now holding my breath for a Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 collector's edition from Scream Factory, because if they're doing The Next Generation and The Heretic, they can do Book of freaking Shadows. So you hear me, Scream Factory? Book of Shadows.
Nah, Scream Factory, I want you to put out the Ultimate Omen collection, where we can get some actually good special features for the sequels. And for shits and giggles, put in the fourth one. Obviously, you're going to include the remake in that, but I haven't watched the fourth one and hated on it in over a decade, so why not? If you're releasing The Heretic, then you might as well release Omen for the Awakening, which... Actually, please don't. Please keep that buried. That joke went too far. Please keep that buried.
They actually should... They should continue on with their Amityville box set. They have a box set with the first 3.
Yeah.
They should go 4, 5, and 6.
Oh man, my favorite is Amityville 6, 1992. It's about time.
I just love the subtitle. It's about time. Time for what? No, that's what the movie's about. It's about time.
Get it?
There's so many layers to it, and all of them are bad.
Yeah.
It's like an onion. You just keep peeling it. It's like, yeah, there's layers, but it's just more shit.
You go deeper and deeper.
The poet Shrek.
Or like the Amityville 5 with the evil lamp. Like a literal like light lamp that's possessed by evil.
One of these days, I'm going to sit down and watch all the Amityville movies, and I'll probably be driven insane by it. But
how many of them are there? Because there's
oh god,
12 or 15.
At some point, I think that the rights got confusing, so anybody who wants to can make a movie that's called Amityville something. So there are dozens, I feel, of movies with the word Amityville in them. So you have to do a little research, find out which are actually canon, if there really is a canon at this point, and which are just some rando, saying the Amityville terror.
Well, and that's the thing too with Amityville is that like Amityville, it's not like Jason or Freddy where it was something that was created. Technically, Amityville is like a place or something, so you can say this is an Amityville movie as long as it doesn't have like specific copyrighted things like characters or things like that. You technically, as far as I know, with rights and stuff, you can just fucking make something, put Amityville in it as the title, and then just have it be about whatever the fuck you want it to be. I'm on Wikipedia right now, and series-wise, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 apparently. With the last one to be in theaters was Amityville: The Awakening, which took like 5 or 6 years to come out and was barely released.
I didn't even know it was in theaters. I thought that was the one that they gave away free on Google Play.
They did. I still have my free copy on Google Play, and I have yet to watch it.
I don't think I've watched it either.
But they also have the Amityville Murders, which came out this year, or is coming out this year. We have an Amityville movie this year, but Jesus Christ, like, it's about time. Some of these titles, there's a Dollhouse one from 96.
Did you guys ever see My Amityville Horror?
No, I missed that.
That's a documentary, right?
Yeah, that's the documentary about one of the kids. And it's really fascinating because the Amityville Horror has been pretty thoroughly debunked as a hoax, but this kid believes it. And he's not a kid, he's a man now. And he like gets pissed off at the film crew if they question, there's something going on in that house, whether it was haunted or just psychological torture from the parents or something, because this kid, man now, but this dude he believes it. Whether or not it happened is irrelevant because this guy believes that stuff happened, and it's pretty intense.
Back on Scream Factory releases, they're actually doing one that I've been hoping for quite some time. William Malone's remake of House on Haunted Hill is getting a collector's edition.
Is that one good? That's the one I haven't seen. I've seen the remake of The Haunting with Liam Neeson's in it, but House on Haunted Hill, I heard some decent things, but that artwork they made for it is worth, I think, the slipcover price to buy,
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I feel like it might have been kind of hit or miss for people, but because it was like that whole thing, like that there was that company Dark Castle that was remaking all the old William Castle movies, because House on Haunted Hill was the first one, and I don't know how well it did, but it did well enough that they did a few more, like 13 Ghosts and Ghost Ship. But House on Haunted Hill is a lot of fun. It's basically like a late 90s update on the original Vincent Price movie, and Jeffrey Rush plays kind of a Vincent Price stand-in, and
Famke Janssen's in it, right?
Who?
Famke Janssen, is she in it?
Yes. Yeah. I think she was the lead, but also Chris Kattan was in this one as a supporting character. Though he was actually really good in this, though. Like
was he subtle? Can you ever use that to describe Chris Kattan? The word subtle.
I was gonna say.
It was a bit more subdued. Basically, he plays kind of the harbinger guy, and that, like, he's the son of the dude who built the house on Haunted Hill, and he keeps on telling everybody to get out, and just, like, he's only in it for the money, but he's like, if we stay here, we're all gonna die. And, of course, they all get locked in, and it's just like, shit, we're all gonna die. I'm just gonna drink. I feel like it's pretty underrated. It's a lot of fun. Also, a lot of great effects, and also prominently features Marilyn Manson's cover of Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, because it was the 90s.
Yeah, I was about to say, that sounds like the most 90s thing a horror film could do in the 90s. Well, feature a Manson cover.
We were talking about Book of Shadows.
Right.
That soundtrack was all that kind of stuff. What else we got news-wise? Anything?
Well, one last Scream Factory that I want to mention that I'm really stoked about is Roger Corman's The Wasp Woman, which is just very classic. Like, that's all you need to know is it's Corman. There's a wasp woman. You know exactly what you're getting, and it's awesome. But I'm always excited when Scream Factory announces new Corman titles because those are notorious for very limited releases, very limited runs, and they're very like a tight grip on their library. And I just hope that, you know, since they are doing Wasp Woman and probably a few more in the future, that leads to further titles being released. Some of his, you know, classic horrors, but more importantly, I really need a Suburbia Blu-ray. Like, I need a brand new transfer of Penelope Spheris's Suburbia soon. So I'm stoked about that. Outside of Scream Factory, though, don't forget right now, I don't know how long it's going to last, but Barnes & Noble is having their 50% off Criterion title sale. So fans get on it because titles like Island of Lost Souls and House, Night of the Living Dead, Silence of the Lambs, all these great horror films with beautiful transfers, awesome special features, and just getting the ultimate treatment are currently around $20 each for the most part, except for, like, you know, bigger sets and limited things. I know for myself, I'm going to pick up Eyes Without a Face and tease myself about possibly getting that Guillermo del Toro trilogy set, even though I already own Criterion single releases for those movies.
I think that they're the same versions. I mean, if you already own the singles, I think they just put them in a box. So unless you want the box.
No, it is the same, you know, discs, and it's the same movies, of course, but the box set, it's smaller than a regular Blu-ray size. I've held it and all that stuff, but it's just so pretty. I think it might be one of those ones where it's like, yeah, I already own this movie, but I also own this thing. You know, it's very collector's in mind set. It's very, very pretty, and I kind of want it, even though it's like $50.
If we're given recommendations for the Criterion sale, I think that everyone should own the early Cronenberg stuff they have. They have The Brood, Scanners, and Videodrome that they've done.
Yes.
Wonderful releases of all three, and those are essential in my opinion, at least. I think it's Scanners has an extra movie. His first movie, Stereo, is on. I think it's Scanners. It's on one of those three. I think it's Scanners.
I think you're right, and not only that, but this is going to tickle James's fancy, but they do have some fringe titles, including the Coen brothers' Blood Simple, which I just picked up, not from this sale. I got it at Zaya Records in Vegas. But Blood Simple, I'm so excited about this. It's film noir meets, horror film, and it's like the Coen brothers' first film. Like, they're not even credited as directed by, because they were trying to they were trying to fight off some type of pretentious thing of like two directors or something. So it's like written by one Coen, directed by another Coen, produced maybe by both Coens. But it's very like Coen-y, but it's like got some heavily influenced by their collaborations with Sam Raimi. It looks like a lot of fun, and that's what I'm going to be watching later tonight.
Nice. Although if I could throw in a Criterion recommendation real quick.
Of course.
This one I feel gets brushed over a lot, but Criterion did a 2-disc release of Equinox, which, speaking of Evil Dead, as a lot of people consider to be kind of the precursor to that, it was made in the 60s. I forget the name of the director, but a lot of the special effects people who worked on Equinox would go on to work on such big effects movies as the original Star Wars. It's a lot of fun. It was kind of like a prototypical bunch of teens go out in the woods to look for somebody, and they end up in like this weird alternate universe with like giant demons and cyclopses and a lot of Ray Harryhausen-esque stop-motion monsters.
My issue with Criterion's Equinox is it's DVD only. I don't think they've done it on Blu-ray, which is kind of a drag, because I know as soon as I buy it on DVD, they're going to announce the freaking Blu-ray.
Every
time.
time.
I'll be double dipping.
Well, I have the DVD, and, it's definitely worth checking out, and there's a lot of special features, like interviews with Forrest Ackerman, and a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. And aside from that, in terms of Blu-rays, you can't go wrong with the original 1954 Godzilla. The King of the Monsters.
Because it's got both versions. It's got the American and the Japanese.
King of the Monsters.
In HD.
Yep.
Now, one last thing, news-wise, I just want to bring up the creator of Dear White People has come out saying that they're crafting a horror film in tribute to black women. There's not much more known about this project outside of that, But I think that's great that Justin Simeon is making a film with that type of focus. I mean, Dear White People, the movie was great. I'm in love with the TV show, especially after second season, which I thought was even better and phenomenal. But it's cool that he's, transitioning to horror, and not only that, but making it about Black women. I think, it's, again, one of those things, especially in the horror genre, where it talk about groups of people that are not represented well or really shown in the best of light. I think that'll be fantastic that he's doing something like that, especially after Get Out. Having more racially charged horror films and bringing up those type of topics is, I think, a very important thing to be doing in these times.
I agree.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one.
Hell yeah.
Let's move on to new releases. The big new release this week, which is in theaters now, is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. You guys seen that?
Yes.
No, not yet.
Jacob, what'd you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. I actually think I liked it more than Jurassic World, the first one, just because this one had a bit more action, and it did something I feel like was kind of different from the other sequels. With the second half, I can't really get into it without spoiling it, but also the whole thing with the island exploding with the volcano, that made for some pretty cool scenes, and it was very dino-centric, which as Jurassic Park, Jurassic World fans, it's all about the dinosaurs.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you liked it, because I liked it too, but it is getting crucified. It's getting raked over the coals by critics and fans alike. People are kind of hating this movie, but I look at it kind of the same way what you brought up. It's more about the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs are the main characters in this movie. So, you don't give a rat's ass about Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard. Yep. You literally don't care if they live or die. But these dinosaurs, you're actually feeling for them. There's one scene in particular, I don't want to spoil it, but it's not really a huge plot point. It happens about a third of the way into the movie, but it's an obvious play on the heartstrings involving a dinosaur. And it was an obvious play, but it was an effective one because it got me. I mean,
Yeah, and I know what scene you're talking about, and also thinking back on it, I can't help but feel that it was also kind of an homage to Land Before Time.
Yeah, a little bit, but also it's an homage to the original, the first Jurassic Park, because, I'm not going to spoil too much, but it's the same dinosaur as the first one that they saw, the Brachiosaurus. So it kind of brings it full circle. And granted, it's not over. There's going to be a third Jurassic World movie, but it's effective. There's a poster that I guess it's a Fandango poster. So I don't know if it's an official poster. Don't
bring that. First of all, Jacob was doing such a good job of selling me by bringing up Land Before Time, making more about the people, because the people in Jurassic World were pretty bland, but you bring up that Fandango poster and just...
Well, here, we'll sell it back to you again. It's like Rampage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh.
Do we have you again? It's actually not like Rampage, but it's
coming out soon.
Similar vein, because, Rampage, the creatures, at least George, was one of the main characters. But this poster, it basically looks like a parody of a Marvel movie poster, like an Avengers poster or a Star Wars one, because it has this beautifully drawn art of the characters, but it's all the dinosaurs. It's not any, there's no Chris Pratt or Bryce Dallas Howard on this poster anywhere. It's just, there's the Velociraptor, there's the T-Rex, there's a new dinosaur called a Stiggy. I don't know the exact name. They call him Stiggy. And he basically, he headbutts things, and he is awesome. He's my new favorite dinosaur in the franchise. But yeah, the poster, it basically epitomizes what Fallen Kingdom is, because instead of having the human characters on this poster, it's got the dinosaurs.
Okay, see, I haven't seen Fallen Kingdom yet, but I have so many opinions about this goddamn poster. First of all, here's my opinion on the Jurassic World series, and this is again not seeing the second one, is that it's giving me everything I ever wanted out of a Jurassic Park movie. There's more dinosaurs. The first movie, it gets to the point where it's like clearly setting up a big bout between the super duper engineered dinosaur versus the original T-Rex. It was setting it up so hard there might as well have been boxing posters for it and advertisements on HBO.
Don't give many ideas.
And I'm sorry, shit. I don't think Spielberg's listening, so I don't think They don't care. They'll figure that one out. But that's what we wanted. That's what, as me growing up as a kid, I wanted more dinosaurs. We've already had that issue with Lost World where there were more dinosaurs and it just kind of bogged it down a bit. But by the end of the Jurassic World, I went, all right, you know what? It's giving me everything I ever wanted. Just kind of sit back, remove my brain a little bit, and just let this dumb fun happen. Once I did that, I did have a lot of fun with that final bit. But again, it makes me kind of regret wanting it because at the end of the day, yes, that's awesome. More focus on the dinosaurs, but you still have these really dumb characters and these really dumb plot points with these dumb characters. Like in the first one, did we really need Dallas Price Howard and Chris Pratt's character to fall in love at the end? Because there was zero chemistry between them throughout the entire movie. I'm not even going to bring up the whole her running in heels bit.
They do make fun of that, though, in this.
They better. They fucking better. But with that poster, again, holy shit, dinosaurs. Like, whenever I drive cross-country, if I ever see a dinosaur museum, it's an immediate take that exit and go to it. I have a few dinosaur posters myself, and when they said Fandango has a exclusive all-dinosaur poster, I was all up in that. Like, I almost immediately bought tickets, and then I saw the damn thing, and it was just... gross. It was just like, what is this? Like, it is, like you said, it's like one of those Marvel posters, but not one of the good ones. This was like that poster for Spider-Man Homecoming where it's just all floating heads, and it just made almost no sense. Heads were bigger than the other ones, and it was just lacked a lot of focus, and it was just like, no, just have like a beautifully done dinosaur poster for it. And they did have some cool ones. Like there's that one where it's just a T-Rex screaming, roaring, and the volcano's blasting in the background. They just have like the little orb ball thing, and Chris Pratt and all them are very tiny in the bottom. Like, that poster is dope. There's really cool dinosaur-centric ones that barely focus on the humans. And then you got this one where it just looks like an advertisement for a 90s Saturday morning cartoon where it's about a dino squad going to protect us from the street sharks or whatever. I don't fucking know.
Well, for the third Jurassic World movie, the poster I want to see is like one of those 90s Scream, I know what you did last summer, where the cast is standing with, with like a black background. Yes. But with the dinosaurs. Yeah. That's the poster silhouette. I want. If you're listening, that's the poster we want for the next Jurassic World.
One of them has to have a mustache in the poster, but not in the actual movie, like the original Scream poster. We all know who that guy was.
Yeah.
But I still want to see it. At the end of the day, it's Jurassic World. I may not buy it on Blu-ray, but I'm going to see it in theaters. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to love the dinosaur bits. I'll probably walk out of it bitchy, but a few things don't make me bitchy these days.
If I know you're going to buy it on Blu-ray just because you're not going to want the gap on your shelf, because you have the other four.
My girlfriend said that to me the other day, and she was like, I was like, oh, you didn't see it in theaters? She's like, I'll just watch it when you buy it on Blu-ray. I'm like, I don't even own Jurassic World yet. She's like, what do you mean you don't own it on Jurassic World? I was tempted to update because
I'm surprised that
Target actually has this dope Blu-ray set where it's the first 4 Jurassic Park movies, and it has a little button on the side that when you press it, it plays the main theme.
What?
And I was like, and there was a period where it was only $25, which would have been worth, trading in my trilogy set for that. But then now it's back up to $45.50, and I'm like, is it worth owning that 4th one and just to have that little button that makes the theme noise? I don't know. And then I cringed at myself for a moment on how easy I am to trick into rebuying the same movie for the 5th time, and then sulked off out of Target.
Yeah, Jonathan, what if it has a slipcover?
It does have a slipcover. It's got a sweet case for it. But there's like also 8 different versions of this, and I'm like, it's not even the complete set. I don't always get suckered in with that, but every now and then.
A couple other things that I saw that this new release things that I saw, they both open on VOD on Tuesday on the 3rd, which by the time this posts, you'll be able to see them. One is called Big Legend, which is it's basically a Jaws ripoff of a guy who goes into the woods looking for Bigfoot. And you would think on paper that a Jaws clone about Bigfoot would be, I'm in with both feet. And, it's okay. It was a little disappointing. Maybe I expected too much from a Jaws clone about Bigfoot. But it bookends nicely. There's a great opening scene, which it's one of those kind of like Friday the 13th remake where you forget that you haven't seen a title until like 15 minutes into the movie, and then all of a sudden it's all Big Legend, And then the climactic fight with the Bigfoot is pretty cool too, but there's this big lull in the middle of the movie. The cool thing about Big Legend is, from what I could tell, there's not that much information about it, but from what I can tell, it's a live stuntman or actor in a Bigfoot suit. It's not CG, which is amazing, because there's nothing worse than getting to the final battle of a Bigfoot movie and having it look like a video game character.
Primal Rage.
That's the worst. Yeah, well, I was thinking Happy Camp it's like a video game character. But anyway, yeah, it kind of looks like a Chewbacca that he's fighting, which is kind of cool. And then the other thing that is releases the same day is called Who's Watching Oliver? And this one is it's better than Big Legend. It's kind of like a modern day Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. It's about a guy who, stalks the streets and picks up women, brings them home, and he murders them, and he has his mom on Skype while he's doing it, and she's barking orders and shouting encouragement to him while he's doing it. But then he meets a girl that he actually falls in love with, so his mom is replaced by this girl and is threatened, and that's just a mean, dirty, nasty, brutal little movie. Like it leaves nothing to the imagination on these killings. I mean, it's not quite as mean-spirited as Terrifier. There's no upside-down women getting hacksawed in half, but it's pretty brutal.
Sounds kind of like an update on Psycho.
Well, yeah, there's the mommy issue thing on Psycho too. Yeah, the guy who plays Oliver definitely channels some Norman Bates in his performance, but it's more Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer than it is Psycho. But there's definitely themes of the whole mommy issue thing going on.
So you would recommend that as a good double feature with Henry Portrait of Serial Killer?
You would need a pick-me-up after it, because both
you would need a pop-in Babe after that.
Yeah.
Or...
Yeah, no, I was thinking pop-in Shopping Mall after or Chud. You definitely would want a chuckler after that.
But you would recommend both those movies?
Yeah, I would recommend Who's Watching Oliver a little more than Big Legend, but Big Legend is, it's a fun little creature feature with, I'll recommend any Bigfoot movie, honestly.
Even Night of the Demon?
Yeah.
The only movie where Bigfoot rips a guy's dick off that I know of.
Night of the Demons? I don't remember that bit.
No.
Night of the Demon.
Yeah.
Oh.
Singular.
Yeah, there's a Bigfoot movie called Night of the Demon where Bigfoot just goes around killing people, and one scene has him rip a dude's dick off. I swear to God.
That sounds painful.
Yeah, it was a weird one. And back on new releases, anyone else see anything in theaters?
Nothing horror. I mean, I always see movies, but yeah, nothing. That Jurassic World is the closest to a horror movie that's come out.
Yeah, I saw a couple of repertory screenings. Like a couple days ago, I got to see Freddy vs. Jason in theaters via Screamfest at the Chinese Theater, which was one of the few Friday or Nightmare on Elm Street movies I had yet to see in theaters, because when it came out I was too young, and just Freddy vs. Jason doesn't screen all that much, but it was actually pretty fun, especially with a crowd, and just hearing people cheer with the big fight and some of the wackier moments. So yeah, I only saw it for the first time, I think, on the old AMC horror marathons or whatever, but it's one of those movies that I feel is very enhanced by being with a crowd, especially a bunch of horror fans, especially, just some people cheering for Jason, some people cheering for Freddy, and yeah, so it was a good time.
Yeah, it's the ultimate boxing match.
Yeah, I love all the promotional stuff they did building up for it, because they actually had a weigh-in in Vegas between Freddy and Jason.
Yeah.
They actually treated that one like a boxing match.
Yeah, and they did have boxing posters for that one.
Yeah.
Which is what's cool about that film, because I just like Jacob, didn't see it when it came out in theaters, a bit too young, but definitely in going back and watching the special features for Freddy vs. Jason, and just like how they treated it in the lead up, and how the director treated, in approaching the two. It's really cool, because like a lot of times it's like, yeah, the film's wacky, yeah, there's a Jay from Jay and Silent Bob ripoff in it, but ultimately they really do treat the two. When you're thinking about just the Freddy and Jason and how they interact in that movie, they really treat both characters respectively. Like, the people behind writing it and behind the camera had a respect for both franchises, and it ultimately came out like, it wasn't like, oh, we're more of a Freddy fan than we are a Jason fan. Like, it was definitely both like, no, these are titans. We're going to show them at their best.
Yeah, and actually the screenwriters were there, and, they talked about, the miraculous story of how they managed to kind of get it off the ground, because, like, New Line or Paramount or Conjunction had been trying to make Freddy vs. Jason for, like, 20 years, and they finally managed to do it, and they got Ronnie Yu, which actually I think really paid off, because say what you will about the movie as a whole, the choreography on the Freddy vs. Jason fight scenes were really cool. They even had a bunch of kind of wrestling bits in there, like Jason giving Freddy a shoulder slam and stuff, and they were saying that Ronnie was a fan of American wrestling, so the more I thought about it, the more that kind of made sense. So yeah, just, I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie, but I think if there was ever going to be a Freddy vs. Jason movie, especially at that time, that was as good as it was going to get.
Yeah. I didn't get to see any films in theaters. It's been a busy few weeks, but I did have some time to rewatch a couple classics. I rewatched Fifth Element the other day, which isn't horror, so I'm not going to go into details, but yeah, that film, some of the CGI hasn't aged well, but other than that, it's still a lot of fun. But one film that was definitely very different this viewing that I saw was Rubber.
Oh, yes.
Rubber came out when I was managing a movie theater, so I projected it a few times. And a little backstory, I actually got my dad to come out to the movie theater for once to come see, because I was like, oh, Black Death, this looks right up his alley. It's medieval, there's some action, Sean Bean's in it. What father doesn't love Sean Bean in movies? So he came out and we watched Black Death, and I asked my dad, hey, what'd you think about Black Death? He was like, eh. And then all of a sudden he just goes, I want to see that tire movie, because we had a trailer for Rubber right before it. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so the next weekend, I made sure to watch it before he came up, and I watched it. I was confused as shit by it. So I was like, Dad, are you sure you want to see this tire movie? He's like, yeah. So he comes up, watches it, and he actually ended up loving it.
Wow.
Which totally destroyed my opinion on what my dad thinks is a watchable movie. But I recently got it on Blu-ray and rewatched it last night, and it definitely went a lot quicker with this new viewing and watching it. The weirdness wasn't as weird as it was when I first watched it, but it was still a lot of fun. I mean, just the over-the-topness. I mean, the movie opens up with the guy just pulling up, knocking over every single chair in the middle of this road in the middle of the desert. It goes right up to the camera and goes, why is it in Steven Spielberg's E.T. the alien is brown? No reason. And just keeps going, listing off. And from there, the tone is set all right, it's going to be a weird movie, but just the overall critiques and ideas it was bringing up of audience and interaction with the movie and, all that was very interesting the second time around. Plus, the blood and everything was very well done for a killer tire movie.
Yeah, and what I forget, what's the tire's name again?
Robert.
Yeah, Robert the tire.
Yes.
But it's great. I want to know how they got the tire movements. There was definitely a few bits where you could kind of tell that someone was the hand was off camera to get it to drink water and stuff, but when it first comes to life, quote, and it's learning its first steps, is just so weirdly beautiful. It's just it is like watching a really well orchestrated baby's first steps, and then you see it kind of play around with smashing cans and bottles and squishing a scorpion, and eventually gets to the point where it's just blowing people's brains up using telekinesis powers and stuff.
Which is the other thing, it's amazing that it's a killer tire movie and it has a completely unexpected power. It's a tire that's movable, but it has psychic powers that can make people's heads explode. It's like if Chucky comes back to life, but he has got fire breath.
Yeah, you would think it would be they could have easily gone the cheesy route and it's bouncing around or it's just stomping on people, but they went with this very, and it kind of elevates it a bit more because it's wow, I didn't think that it would have the ability to make people's heads explode by shaking and telekinesis. So it gets to the point where you're kind of sitting there and you're going wow, this movie about a killer tire had way too much thought put into it. Way too much. Someone was yeah, I almost want to know if they came up with all the themes and ideas of the audience being a part of it, and you're watching the audience watch this movie through binoculars and themes of audience versus watching stuff, and then what's going to be the movie within the movie, a killer tire, or did they start off with, yeah, it's a movie about a killer tire. All right, well, how can we make this watchable?
It definitely wins on unique points. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of movies about killer tires that basically can scan people.
I think it might be the first one. I think it might be the first scanners as killer tire movie.
And it'll probably be the last, unless they make a sequel. Robert Lives.
I would be down to watch a sequel, but it is on, I believe it's still on Netflix. So if you're looking for something different to watch, check out Rubber. Some people will hate it, others will love it. Either way, it's an interesting watch.
Anybody else see anything cool?
I was also at the Egyptian recently for their King Lovecraft triple feature, so I got to watch From Beyond, In the Mouth of Madness, and The Mist in black and white, back to back to back. And needless to say, it was an uplifting evening with positivity for everybody.
I'm so jealous you got to go to that. Like, I've been on the road for months, so there's been a lot of events that I've missed in LA and a lot of things that I've missed in LA, and that's honestly like the main thing that has made me regret being on the road. I mean, yeah, sure, I miss my girlfriend and like friends and all. I mean, yeah, they're but missing out on that triple feature alone made me like angry that I was not in town, especially since it was a part of their New England horror series,
Nightmare
right?
New England, which is also what the Jaws thing is a part of. But all three were very interesting, and we had talked about in a previous show that I had seen The Mist, but I had never seen the black and white version. And I gotta say, like, I think I do like the black and white version better than the color version, just because, mainly, the movie's made in 2007, so the CG was decent, but doesn't quite as hold up. But in black and white, it looks considerably better, as well, like in tone and just the way it feels. The black and white really adds to the mood.
Didn't Frank Darabont originally? It was always planned to be in black and white, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the color was forced on him. He originally wanted it in black and white, so it would make sense that he made the movie to look better in black and white.
Yeah, he worked with a cinematographer, and even when it's in color, you can tell if you have that kind of eye that it was kind of shot lighting wise for black and white. So making that, because a lot of times, especially nowadays when we see like, oh, Logan's being released in black and white, I don't know if that one was originally intended to be black and white or if it was just another gimmick because Mad Max Fury Road did it. But George Miller did the same with Mad Max, where he wanted it in black and white, but they wouldn't allow it.
Yeah.
Which, on one hand, I'm like, that's cool, George Miller, but also the colors in Mad Max, it's just ridiculous. I don't know why you would want to.
Beautiful, yeah. I think that one is good to exist in both forms, because the black and chrome does look great, but watching it in color, it's a beautiful movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's eye-popping.
Eye-popping.
Yes. I think that Fury Road is... I'm glad that it exists in both. I mean, I own both versions of it.
Yeah, same. And it looks great on both, but with The Mist, like, they definitely like lit it for black and white, and it gives it two totally different feels. Like in the original theatrical like color, it gives it like a 1960s, 70s like type of modern monster movie feel. When black and white, it gives you like Jacob and I were talking about the other day, it gives you like a 50s
Twilight Zone
feel. Exactly. Yeah. And especially with that ending, it just pounds it in even more in black and white.
Yeah, that's the Twilight Zone style ending.
Yeah, and I love that King even admitted that he liked Darabont's ending better than the one that he had, because his was a bit more open-ended, but Darabont's was absolutely crushing.
Well, we talked earlier about Stephen King and his problems with people's adaptations, so it's pretty. It says a lot when he says that Darabont did it better than he did.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's not something I think he says often.
That's true.
And as a result, Darabont is one of the... I think Frank Darabont and Mick Garris are the two guys that Stephen King trusts. And it looks like maybe Mike Flanagan has joined those ranks as well. But those are the guys that he trusts to adapt his stories. I mean, I don't think he would... I mean, Kubrick died, 20 years ago almost, but I don't think he would have let Stanley Kubrick have a shot at another one of his...
I feel like King is still on a rampage of, like, against Kubrick's thing. I think that's the only reason why he made a sequel to The Shining with Dr. Sleep, was to be like, see, my version's even better. You can make a sequel to this. You can't make a sequel to Kubrick's. I'm sure that's in his mindset, but I also can't help but feel like, at times, King's opinion on his adaptation, it's kind of like, remember when Terminator Genesis came out and Cameron's like, this is the best Terminator sequel since T2.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like, well, that's not hard. That's like saying this bout of diarrhea isn't as painful as the last time I had food poisoning. But I can't help feel like that was a bit of a marketing scheme because, at the end of the day, it was so bad even Cameron took back the reins. It was like, no, I'm doing it right this time. But before it came out, he was all up on it. And King kind of did the same thing with The Dark Tower, being like, no, this is the best Dark Tower. Like, just totally blowing up about it. And the second it came out, he just kind of like stopped talking about it. So I don't know if it is a little bit of selling the soul and like getting, helping to get out there. I honestly didn't have that many issues with the Dark Tower movie. I thought it was a very palatable, very not watered down, but very like basics setup and introduction to that very dense world for people who didn't read the books, but...
Well, I didn't read the books, but from what I understood from people who had, basically they crammed all 7 books into a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of spillover, a lot of characters that aren't there, a lot of... From what I understand, it's like a gallon of story into a shot glass of a movie. I have a feeling that Stephen King, when he was touting The Dark Tower, he hadn't seen it yet, and then when he shut up about it, it was after he saw it.
But I mean, there was a lot of things that they did with it, not to go too off topic, but, you know, at the end of the original books, there's this item he needs to actually complete the task. So the movie is supposed to be him having that item so that they can kind of get away with, yeah, it's like the books, but not exactly, because it's a different timeline, essentially. But
so you're saying there's a prequel coming?
Well, the prequel is the books, essentially, to the movie. So it is a continuation. So I was a bit more lenient with allowing it to kind of play with, like, different characters coming in at different points and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's a all right film. It's not terrible.
Yeah, I still need to catch that. But I was also going to say, in terms of the Kubrick King stuff, I think it also might have been that Kubrick was just real weird with King when he was adapting it. Because, like, you hear those stories about, like, Kubrick calling King at 3 a.m. and asking him if he believes there's a God, and like, all these crazy existential questions. So,
which, when you just gave up alcohol and cocaine, that's a bit much to deal with.
I can imagine.
I don't think he had given it up yet. I don't know that Stephen King in 1980, because that was pre-Maximum Overdrive. So I don't think he had given up. And supposedly, from what I've heard, Stephen King does not remember writing Cujo because he was so drunk the whole time. So, I mean, this episode is starting to sound like we're railing on Stephen King, and he is one of the most creative minds of all time, actually, horror-wise.
Oh, yeah.
And this sounds like we're raking
King is king. We love him.
Yeah, exactly. He's Stephen freaking King.
But also, the thing about King is it's definitely like one of those things is, yes, he's one of the most creative minds. He's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. My first adult book I bought was a King novel. I still have it, The Dark Half. But at the end of the day, with someone like him who's put out so much content, so many books, there's been so many adaptations of his stories, you can't help but develop a major critique about him, especially since he's been writing for, well over 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, there's plenty to nitpick, but at the end of the day, yeah, he is the king.
That's one of the great things about him is he will, the reason there are so many adaptations, he'll license his stories to like film students and stuff just for
the
nothing.
dollar babies.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing is they can't release it commercially. But if like a film student wants to adapt one of his stories, he's like, go for it. You know, I'm all about it. You just can't make money off it, which, you know, is fair. You know, if you're making money off it, he wants to make money off it.
Right.
Speaking of Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick and The Shining, I actually a couple weeks ago saw, and speaking of retro screenings, I saw a midnight screening of The Shining on the big screen, which was something else. I mean, I saw it on the big screen when I was a kid, and it brought it back. That is a big screen movie. It's just so beautifully made. We've already talked about how cinematic The Shining is, so we don't need to go into it anymore right now. But yeah, I got to see it on the big screen.
So jealous.
So should we move on?
Yeah, I think that we've
exhausted.
We've beaten new releases and what we've seen. So let's move on to subgenre of this is subgenre of the month because we missed last episode. So what do you got for us, Jacob?
All right. Well, 4th of July is coming up, and it's officially summertime now. So I think it'd be fun to do a vacation gone wrong subgenre. So stuff like Just Before Dawn, Turistas, Hostel, and my favorite and that I'm seeing later, Jaws. So movies where people go on vacation and things go terribly, terribly wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's the basic setup of almost every teen horror film in it. I mean, let's go on vacation and bang this random abandoned place, whether it's a hospital or cabin in the woods or
cabin in the woods
or an old Mexican mission where you play truth or dare with a stranger who brings you out.
Yeah, I bet the number one and most torturous dare of that is that you have to sit through and watch Blumhouse's Truth or Dare.
Oh.
Of all those vacation ones, Jacob just touched on it. Turistas that came out around the same time as the whole torture porn Hostel Saw thing. Turistas really got me because it wasn't just Hostel; it was just senseless. We want to kill Americans. Turistas, they get wrapped up in this organ harvesting, it's the typical, they meet this local who wants to take them to this party on this club on this secluded beach. All right, let's do it. And then they wake up hungover the next day and half of them are gone. And
shit.
What happened? And I think that as far as these vacation movies go, it's kind of like you're in an unfamiliar place. It's the fear of the unknown that anchors those. Like another one of my favorites is Tourist Trap.
Oh yeah,
these kids, they go, they're on. It's exactly what it sounds like. They're on this vacation. They go and they find this watering hole. They're hanging out, and it's next to a tourist trap, like a gas station kind of a thing that is populated with these satanic mannequin kind of things
and animatronics and like weird kitschy doodads.
Yeah.
Sounds better than every other tourist trap I've been in on my travels.
Yeah, but these try to kill you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that part sucks, but I mean, satanic mannequin sounds like right up my alley. Like if on the side of the road it was just like satanic mannequin monument up ahead, I'd be like, fuck yeah.
It's a crazy movie. If anybody has not seen Tourist Trap, the thing about Tourist Trap that you got to be careful of is I guess there's two versions out there. There's one that is like 15 minutes shorter that got released, I think, by Full Moon, and the director actually came out and said, this is not my movie. This is Charles Band trying to cash in. This isn't the whole thing. This isn't the whole Tourist Trap. So I know that there's a version of it on Shudder, and I'm not sure which version it is that is licensed to Shudder. So just beware if you're tracking down Tourist Trap that there's two versions and one is not complete.
And that's the main reason why I haven't gotten around to Tourist Trap, because everyone always tells me it's a great film, but like I want to watch the actual like full thing of it, which is why I like director's cuts or stuff like that. But I mean, a whole 15 minutes, that's a huge chunk to be missing, and even if the director's disavowing it, that's even more so for me to be like, I'm all set with like missing out on that for a bit until that version comes out. If they release a Blu-ray of it, fuck yeah, I'm purchasing it day one. But when it comes to vacation films, one that really comes to my mind is a film that I avoided for a while, The Ruins.
Oh yeah,
I mean, that came out, it made a bit of a splash, but like ultimately has become forgotten. I think it's because it's treated more of like a young adult horror film, like it's not really given its time of day. But man, that movie got real brutal at times with the vines going into bodies and stuff. That's just like it's like someone was like, hey, let's take that one scene in Evil Dead and just make an entire film of it. But what I really like is that it highlights how sometimes especially like American tourists can be super disrespectful to locals, sacred areas, and that's the whole point of it. Is this group of American teenagers, they go visit these ruins. You're not supposed to go on the ruins, but of course they go on the ruins, and then they're stuck up there as this like old evil like starts tearing them apart one by one and all this stuff. And
well, they get stuck up there because the natives won't let them come down
because they're infected.
Yeah. What I like most about The Ruins is my girl Jenna Malone is in it.
Yeah.
And off of James' point, that a lot of these vacation movies are kind of fear the unknown, and I've just been kind of thinking about it a little bit. Do you think these types of movies are kind of xenophobic? Just that the dangers of going to unknown places or meeting strangers?
I can see that with some. Maybe not all. I think a lot of the fear of the unknown is just, especially with vacation, that's the whole point of it, is like you don't know about this culture, so your guard is let down a bit because you're looking for an adventure, you're looking for an experience, you're looking for something that you're not looking for terror. You're not always aware, because there's always those people where it's like, oh, don't go that. When you're in this place, don't go down like that alley. It's like, oh, well, I'll be fine, blah, 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 I'm on vacation. So there's that fear of unknown, but it's also because your guard is let down. So it's kind of preying on that biggest fear. And yeah, I could see how xenophobia plays a major part in that, especially in some films.
Yeah.
As far as vacation movies go, I think that they might be unintentionally xenophobic. Take, for example, the Hostel movies.
Yeah.
Basically, these guys are in whatever Slovakia it is, and, they're getting drugged and kidnapped because they're American, and this kind of sends a message that don't trust the foreigners when you're in their land. Don't trust Russian girls who are taking you to the club. But I don't think that's actually what Eli Roth's intent was. I don't think he was trying to be racist about it. I think he was just making a movie about strangers in a strange land getting taken. I don't know that the xenophobia was intentional. I don't know if that was his point in making it, but even a subconscious point is a point, so maybe maybe it is.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like a lot of these examples may be more unintentional than not. Like, I do remember the story Eli Roth told about his inspiration for the movie, which I think he said he was at a party and, like, somebody told him an urban legend about a story, like, in some backpacking country you could pay, like $1,000 to shoot somebody in the head. Yeah, you know, it's a lot of different factors. And even outside of our own country and just within, you know, different parts of the country, you know, like, there's so many horror movies about, like, going to different parts, like the South or the Southwest, and, like, they're killer rednecks or killer hillbillies.
Or the Wrong Turn series.
Yeah.
You know, Hills Have Eyes, Deliverance, you know.
Yeah, that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, you know, it's a lot of different factors.
Speaking of, one of the ultimate vacation horror movies, Deliverance. Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah.
4 guys just wanted to go have a canoe trip, and
Burt Reynolds.
God damn.
Well, they wanted to have a canoe trip before that part of land got completely razed and, like, a shopping center got put up or something.
I think it was about a dam, like a dam was being put up.
Yeah. They were going to develop that area, and they thought it was going to be their last chance to canoe down it.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to go back after that.
No. And it definitely changed the way we as a culture look at banjos.
Oh, I apologize to anyone who owns a banjo. For me and hundreds of other people, that the second you whip that out, we ask for you to play dueling banjos. But also, don't get mad. It's not like banjo is so popular that we can name another song. You know?
The Rainbow Connection. It's either dueling banjos or the Rainbow Connection.
One or two.
Those are the two. Those are the two banjo songs.
Yeah, and another favorite of mine, kind of sort of in that vein, Just Before Dawn by Jeff Lieberman, which you know, is about these kids going up to a very beautiful and scenic part of Oregon to check out, like, this cabin or a plot of land that, like, one of them owns, but at the same time there's this super creepy and weird killer out in the woods, and there's like this small population of people, and, like, there's like a tendency for twins, like the area is known for having a notoriously high percentage of twins. Oh, and also my other favorite part being that George Kennedy is the sheriff.
The iconic image from Just Before Dawn is, I always remember, it's a beautifully shot movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I always remember there's one scene where there's a couple making out in like a watering hole, like a lake.
Yeah.
And there is a waterfall behind them, and you can see the silhouette of the killer in the waterfall behind them, so you know, you're like, oh, you know, he's coming. You know, it's just the... You know, and they're wrapped up in other things, so they don't see it.
Yeah, and I was going to say, just like cinematography-wise, it is probably one of my favorite slashers, because, like, you know, you got the beautiful wilderness of Oregon, and Jeff Lieberman did a great job in kind of framing the killer, because, like, a lot of the times you see him, like, he's kind of blended in with the background or the environment, and, like, he's got this kind of weird pointy head and this gross toothy grin, so it's kind of like a interesting parallel.
Another one of my favorite vacation movies, which I just caught last night. It was on one of the, you know, HBO Showtime channels, The Shallows.
Oh yeah.
Which stars another one of my girls, Blake Lively. She wants to surf this beach that her mom told her about. You know, it's one of those. You know, she's on this life quest to surf this beach. So when she gets there, and she's all by herself, and she finds herself stuck on a reef rock with a giant shark. You know, in the Jaws vein of things. For what it is, it's a much smarter movie than you think it is. When you go into it, you just think, oh, you know, it's this shark. And basically, Blake, for most of the movie, probably 95% of the movie, it's just Blake Lively and a seagull that she names Steven Seagal.
Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Steven Seagal is what
beautiful.
And most of the movie is her. And, well, Steven Seagal is actually an essential character because he gives her a sounding board so that she's not talking to herself. I mean, she is talking to herself, but in the guise of talking to the seagull. So she's able to verbalize things that she isn't able to communicate any other way. It's one of those deals where we've talked about it before, where it's a brilliant performance. It's kind of like Split. We're talking about James McAvoy in Split. Because it's such a schlocky movie, her performance, which I think Blake Lively's performance in The Shallows is masterful, but it went unnoticed by a lot of people because because it's such a schlocky movie.
Yeah, I admit I missed out on that one myself.
You should track that one down because it's The Shallows is pretty essential. Another one of my favorites of those vacation movies is Death Valley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it stars Ralphie from A Christmas Story, Peter Billingsley, and he looks just like Ralphie in A Christmas Story.
So just a bigger version of Ralphie.
He's not even that much bigger. It's because it's around the same time, and he's stuck in kind of a custody battle between his mom and dad, and he goes on vacation with his mom and her new boyfriend, and they end up in strangers in a strange land, and he sees something he's not supposed to see, so they end up on the run. But it's that's another one that's fun.
Yeah, that was one of Scream Factory's first releases, right?
Yeah, one of the real early ones.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're ready for this week's topic?
Let's move on to the topic, because we almost segued there before we brought it back in when we were talking about Deliverance, because there's kind of a trend, and the internet...
The internet's the worst.
Coming from three people who all write on the internet, the internet is a toxic place.
Oh, yeah.
And you always see... What made us think about this topic is Hereditary came out, and I knew this was going to happen when I had seen it, an early screening. There's always this trend whenever a new horror movie comes out where a lot of, quote, the internet, the people will say, that's not a horror movie. And, for you to say that about something like Get Out, I can kind of get that, although I think Get Out is a horror movie, but it's also kind of more science fiction, But people are saying Hereditary is not a horror movie. What do you want from your horror movie? It's got ghosts, it's got demons, it's got people cutting heads off. What more do you need to be a horror movie? And, I can see people saying... The Shape of Water is not a horror movie, although I love to claim it as a horror movie because it won a freaking Oscar.
Kill Man.
Same thing with Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs is about not one, but two serial killers. But people are still, that's not a horror movie. Basically, I think that what my question is, I don't want to speak for you guys, what does a movie have to do to be considered a horror movie?
What I noticed when this comes up, when a horror movie comes out, and people start saying it's not a horror film, there's two, and again, this isn't research, it's just what I've noticed. There's two different sides of it. There's the critical side of it, where people don't want to admit that a good movie is a horror film. You see it with Silence of the Lambs, Get Out. It's almost like if you say it's a horror film, it's lumped in with Jason and like all these cheesy like horror films, which we do love, a lot of them. I mean, we were just talking about quite a few cheesy ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not. It's just a genre. It's just how you would classify it on your shelf at the end of the day. It's just a title. But people view it as this like black sheep, not to insult certain people, but the redheaded stepchild, of genres.
Nothing against redheads or stepchildren.
Yes, we love you, but you understand it's a common thing. But unfortunately, maybe we should stop using that to be a bit more PC. But at the end of the day, people want to distance it as much as possible, and they'll use any excuse in the book. Oh, it's not a horror, it's a thriller. Oh, it's not technically a horror because it's like you said, and that happened with Silence of the Lambs. I mean, that was one of the few movies to get all 5 of the top Oscars, and the entire time people were like, oh, it's not a horror film. It's got 2 serial killers in it. It's got someone skinning people and then wearing their skins. How is that not horrific?
Well, I've even seen recently somebody say that the Dawn of the Dead remake is not a horror movie.
It's more action, yeah.
They say it's an action movie. You're like, it has freaking brain-eating zombies. I mean, what do you need to have a horror movie? What classifies a horror movie?
And that leads to the second part of it, because we're talking critically where they want to distance it, but there's also the horror bros. One of the worst aspects of being a horror fan. It's like how a lot of Rick and Morty fans hate Rick and Morty fans. Horror bros are one of the worst aspects of our community, and one of the top reasons why they say things aren't horror is because they don't want to either seem like they were scared by something, or they want to seem like they're fearless, or they just want to be right. Like they're just like, I have this opinion, and because it's my opinion, it's right. And it's like, well, back it up. Like simply saying something's not horror because it doesn't scare you is bullshit. I wasn't scared by The Witch, and this isn't me being like, oh, tough bro, it's just, it didn't scare me. There were a few parts, it definitely kept me on this edge of my seat. It was very suspenseful, but at the end of the day, it didn't terrify me. But it's still a horror film. It's got great suspense. Black Phillip was creepy as fuck, but also for me it was just like awesome, like metal on. But it's just, to say something isn't horror because it's not scaring you, it makes you seem like an asshole, and it's a terrible excuse to take something out of its rightful genre. And you see it happen with a lot of the bigger movies as well, like Hereditary. No one wants to, it's like, oh, because it didn't have a machete wielding person in it, it's not a horror film.
People are saying
bullshit.
It is not a horror film. There's a shape-shifting killer clown in this movie, and
children get murdered in Eden.
It's a psychological thriller.
What?
Now, it's a horror movie, and sure, maybe it didn't make you jump out of your seat, but it is freaking scary. So, I'm getting flustered. I'm getting frustrated.
Yeah.
I knew I would, talking about this.
Yeah, what Jonathan was saying, like somebody, I read online, like somebody said something about the relation between Star Wars and Star Wars fans that I feel, kind of applies to a lot of fandoms, including horror, in that nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans, and nobody hates horror more than horror fans.
Yeah. There are a lot of horror fans I've found that don't actually like horror. I mean, on the internet, you'll see in you never read the comments. In the comments section, they're like, anytime somebody posts, someone will post, I really loved It Follows, it was great. And then someone else will go, that movie sucked. That was a terrible movie. It's like,
why? Why did it suck? Give us your critical opinion. Don't just say, oh, it sucked. No.
But also, even if you didn't like it, let someone else like it. You're going in, you're going to belittle someone for liking it. I mean, what kind of world would it be if everybody loved the same movies?
Well, to give a good example, I've worked with Troma a couple of times on a few of their projects. For the site, I've interviewed Lloyd Kaufman. I've reviewed a few of their movies. That particular brand of filmmaking doesn't really sit well with me. I'm not a big fan of Troma, but I see the appeal. I understand why people would love that super over-the-top schlock that, goes over the edge with all its type of isms because it just doesn't give a fuck. Like, I get the appeal. Like, trust me, I respect them for not only sticking to their guns and continuing to make that, but to be able to do that for so long. And
I call Troma movies drinking game movies.
Yeah. Which is understandable, but every now and then they do make something that tickles my fancy. Like, I love Romeo and Juliet, and I love Surf Nazis Must Die. I could list off a few more, but at the end of the day, as much as I don't like their catalog as a whole or their overall thing, I'm not going to go online every time someone goes, oh, I love Toxic Avenger, and I'm not going to be like, fuck you. All right, that sucks. It's like, no, that's cool. It speaks to you. I'm a huge fan of Streets of Fire. I understand why people don't like that movie, but you know what? It's one of my all-time favorites.
Who doesn't like Streets of Fire?
It's a classic.
Yeah, I love Streets of Fire.
Yeah, no, the point being, though, is that, like, different strokes for different folks. Like Streets of Fire and Last Action Hero were derided when they came out, but now they're cult classics.
Yeah, and you know what? At the end of the day, I could waste days going through the iHorror fan group and just bitching about all the times people post about how much they love Happy Death Day. And I hate that movie with such a burning passion. But I don't, because you know what? I can see why some people, honestly, I can't see why some people like that movie, but people like that movie.
You respect them. You respect their opinion.
Cool. Respect their opinions. Like, don't be assholes.
Here's a question, though. Is Happy Death Day a horror movie?
Oh.
Yes. Yes, it is. Even if I don't like it and I wasn't scared by it, it's still a horror movie. There are some, like, fringe things. I understand that. Like, James, you're always saying Hateful Eight is a horror film. And that's understandable to question whether or not it is, because it doesn't classify itself. But it definitely does have all the motifs, all the themes, all the play-by-plays, especially as you keep saying the third act.
You get to the last half hour and it's an episode of Tales from the Crypt. I mean, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Tarantino has flat out said his two main inspirations for it were Reservoir Dogs, which is so egotistical. Only Tarantino could say my own film is my inspiration. And John Carpenter's The Thing. And it totally is. Like, that third act is The Thing.
There's a song from Last House on the Left on the soundtrack.
And there is, and it uses Ennio Morricone as the composer who composed the music for The Thing, and they even used an unused track for The Thing in Hateful Eight.
Exactly.
But other movies that, like, I mean, I'm the fringe horror guy, but movies like like one of my favorite movies of the 21st century is called Compliance.
Oh,
which is
damn.
It's not, I mean, and I'm going to defeat our argument because I'm going to say it's not a horror movie. But the thing is, when you realize, first of all, if any of you haven't seen Compliance, see Compliance.
It's on Shudder.
It's on Shudder right now, which automatically makes it a horror movie, doesn't it? It's on Shudder. The thing about Compliance is what makes it a horror movie is the fact that it really happened.
Based on true events.
Yes, and pretty tightly based on true events. I mean, they didn't take a whole lot of liberties with it. Basically, it's the short version is it's about a girl who gets accused of stealing at her job. She's a fast food clerk, and terrible things happen. I mean, I don't want to go into any more because there's some cool reveals, but it's a horror movie to the people going through it. And, you know, and another one that is another one of my favorite movies of the last few years, Nightcrawler.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, talk about getting snubbed for an Academy Award. Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler was easily the best performance of that year.
And he was scary as hell.
Yeah, exactly. That was like Patrick Bateman scary. I mean, that was, I think, is taken a little more seriously than something like Split, because, you know, McAvoy was snubbed as well. But that was taken, because I think that may have even got nominated the Miscongeniality screenplay. Right. It didn't win it, but at least it got nominated. So it was taken a little seriously by the Academy, I guess, but not seriously enough for Gyllenhaal to win his award.
Which is the other thing, too. I feel like awards kind of obscure, you know, kind of the genre with this type of stuff and the definition. Like remember when Get Out got like a Golden Globe nomination for Best Comedy?
Well, the Golden Globes are notorious for, I mean, even The Martian was considered a comedy. And or Birdman was considered a comedy. If there's something that they know is going to take one category, they'll pigeonhole other things into the other one. The Golden Globes are notorious for that kind of category fraud, I guess you could call it, although not really, because Get Out is more of a comedy than a drama, I would say. But at the end of the day, it's a horror movie. There's no two ways about it.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like on an academic or critical level, a lot of these people consider horror to be a dirty word. So even if they like it, they'll avoid using that specific word, which is why we get all this stuff like psychological thriller or dramatic thriller or just stuff like that. Like it's just trying to beating around the bush.
That's kind of another question I have for you guys. Is it that horror is such a versatile genre? Is that the reason why maybe so many people, it gives them ammunition to say that's not a horror movie? Because you can have a horror movie that is like an action movie, like 28 Days Later, or you can have a horror movie that is like subtle and psychological. Like no one's ever going to say The Shining is not a horror movie, but it is a much more subtle in most of its horror. Do you think it's because horror is a more versatile genre than, say, romantic comedies? I mean, you know when you're getting a romantic comedy, but horror, the horror can be so subtle that I think that might give people ammunition to say that's not a horror movie, you know, because there's not a mask-wearing axe murderer in it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point, you know, just that horror is a very flexible genre, and like there's just so, and which is why, you know, I'm able to do a subgenre of the bi-week or month, you know, just that there's so many different layers and different aspects to it that it can be any number of plots. So, you know, and some people may just have a more narrow view of what they think horror is, you know, just like a lot of people think just horror movies are just slasher movies, or they think like it's just movies about ghosts or something like, and when you have like a narrow view on that, then you just think horror is one specific thing, which is you know, unfortunate because again, it is very versatile.
And the thing is also like to just outright dismiss an entire film which there's so many different aspects to it, you kind of undermine a lot of it. Like you know, there are horror films that do get nominated. I mean, even going back to De Palma's Carrie, both Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie were nominated for Best Actress and Best Supporting that year,
deservedly so. For
that, and that was like the first nomination Piper Laurie ever got. Same with, and I think Sissy Spacek definitely went on to go get more nominations and all that.
Yeah, well, it's like with last year's Oscars. It was cool that, you know, like horror was kind of at the front end because, you know, Get Out and Shape of Water were such huge hits.
Oh, no, they were such huge hits, but there was so much backtracking. You know, it's not a horror.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I could kind of see more of an argument for Shape of Water, you know, but even still, it has a fucking Gilman in it.
Yeah.
And it's got a character like the Michael Shannon character who was scarier than a lot of horror villains.
Yeah.
That's Michael Shannon in almost anything.
Yeah, he's intense.
Even his cameo in We Came Together was terrifying.
So, yeah, and that's the thing, who knows what the future holds, especially with so many, like, A-list horror movies coming out, like Annihilation and... Hereditary, right.
Well, there's already Oscar talk around Toni Collette for Hereditary.
Oh.
But the buzz about Hereditary not being a horror movie is already starting, and that's ludicrous, because Hereditary is the definition of a modern horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in my opinion. But also, do you think, I mean, this is getting back to how horror is just a more versatile genre. I mean, you never hear somebody say, that's not a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
That's not an action movie. They don't even say that's not science fiction. This seems to be a phenomenon that is isolated to the horror community. I mean, you don't ever have people with other genres saying, and it might just because horror fans are more passionate, so they're a little more possessive about their genre.
We're very defensive, that's for certain.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's also because we are, going into the whole, I know we've been blaming horror bros for the whole this isn't horror, but... I mean, it can also go back to how often the genre is under attack. Looking at the 80s with slasher films, how we were blamed for, kids possibly acting out or, being lumped in.
The video nasties in Britain.
The video nasties being lumped in. It's like anytime something happens, it's like, well, the crazy person really, he had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster in his apartment, so all horror films make people psychotic. And it's like, well, no, a lot of people like different things, and generally that doesn't have an influence. I say generally because I'm sure there's probably a case out there where it's like, no, this person saw this movie and acted upon it, but there's way more issues than just that.
It's a whole thing. The point being that, there is a sense of pariahism with the horror genre, and which I feel also goes into kind of like society's love-hate relationship with horror. Because, you go as far back as the beginning of film, like one of the earliest horror movies was Edison's Frankenstein, and then, we had Murnau's Nosferatu from the 1920s, which to this day is one of the scariest silent films ever made, and even further with Universal Studios' classic monsters like Frankenstein and Dracula, which were so big when they were released that they actually saved Universal Studios as a production company.
But if it was released today, Frankenstein would probably, there would be horror bros saying, that's a science fiction movie. And the same thing with, like The Invisible Man or The Wolf Man, these, maybe not Dracula, that's
a vampire.
Horror. No, well, it's a romance. I think that, there was no internet back in the 30s, but if there were, I bet that these Universal Monsters movies would have been, King Kong is a love story.
King Kong is drama. Adventure. It's an adventure movie.
An adventure movie, yeah, that's...
right.
Yeah.
Bride of Frankenstein's a comedy.
Oh.
Yeah, now Frankenstein, it is a science fiction, but it's also a horror. There's a monster made out of
dead body
cadavers.
Parts.
Yeah.
And it was invented by the most goth woman in human history.
Right.
Mary Shelley.
And that's the thing, is that it's so weird that horror has such a bad stigma against it, because it is one of the oldest genres out there. It dates back to just basic storytelling thousands of years ago, when we're telling, could only tell these stories by mouth by the campfire. And it goes back to just how we're not being chased or scared of like a giant saber-toothed tiger coming out of the bushes anymore. So we have to tell stories to bring that adrenaline, to bring back that primal instinct in us. And to just dismiss an entire genre that is so connected with our primal selves is ludicrous. And I'm going to call bullshit on anybody who says something isn't horror for dumb reasons. If you don't like a film or TV show or whatever, because then you don't like it, to just straight up dismiss what it is because you don't like it is just lazy criticism.
Yeah, and when you bring that up, that reminds me of this great scene from Joe Dante's Matinee, where John Goodman's character, Mr. Woolsey, who's kind of like a William Castle stand-in, explains to a kid, just why, the horror genre is so popular and why he does it. Just talking about like thousands of years ago, somebody, had the idea of painting a picture of a woolly mammoth on the side of the cave, and then, it spins from there, and they make the mammoth scarier, and then more people come to see the big picture of this big scary mammoth. And just even if they don't want to admit it, people like to be scared because it's the relief after, and it's a communal experience, and it's something all humans relate to.
Yeah.
Now, do you think that people say, because if they call themselves horror fans, do you think that they'll say that's not horror because they didn't like it?
Oh yeah.
Or because you also hear some people say, like you hear it all the time with it, I liked it, but it's not really a horror movie. It's like, well, first of all, it is a horror movie.
Oh yeah.
It is one of the ones that just completely befuddles me that people consider it not a horror movie. How can it not be a horror movie?
It's Stephen King, Killer Clown, and Bill Skarsgård is scary as hell.
Dude, even when he's doing that ridiculous dance, it's a terrifying moment.
Oh my god.
I love that bit. I know a lot of people hated it.
It's very uncanny.
That dance is creepy, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like we're going a bit in circles at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If just because something's horror doesn't mean it can't be good, and just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not horror. If it doesn't, we've had this a couple episodes ago where we talked about the scariest movies we've ever seen, and so few of those choices were actually straight up horror. I will always say Ghost is the most terrifying movie I've ever seen. And it's not. It's a romance movie with some supernatural elements. At the end of the day, that's not its primary focus, but it does have horror elements to it. And that goes with the whole supernatural aspect of that story. And, and that argument can be made that, yes, it can be classified under it, but it's not going to be. It's a romance. It's a supernatural film. But at the end of the day, judging something on whether or not it's horror, first of all, there should be no judgment on that. If it's horror genre, it's horror genre. Like, that's just the genre that it's in. It's not a point of critique. It's not a point of value. It's just how you classify it when you go to put it on the fucking shelves or when Netflix puts it on its fucking queue. And that's all it is. It's just a binary way of separating things based on topic for interest. That's it.
I think at the end of the day, our new reference point for whether or not something is horror is whether it's on Shudder.
Yeah, but The Devils is on Shudder. And The Devils isn't really horror. And it's not even the complete... I don't want to get into The Devils on Shudder. Speaking of different versions of movies,
The Devils makes the Tourist Trap saga look sane.
Now that's a whole story entirely, though.
I could do an entire episode on the history of the censorship of Ken Russell's The Devils. Flat out. But we're not going to get into
It's a whole thing. We can't get into it now. It's just too much. So there's some wiggle room even in Shudder. Like I've noticed they have a few Yakuza movies and a few movies that may border more on like action or revenge stuff like that. But that's the thing. Like all of them have a genre element to them. Like like I was watching Steven Soderbergh's The Limey on Shudder, and I feel like there's a few sequences there that not necessarily qualify the whole movie as a horror movie, but with some horror elements. Mainly because Terrence Stamp is fucking madman.
Shudder, I think some of their curators are fringe horror guys, after my own heart. Because, they have a loose definition of horror, but at the end of the day, it packs their channel with good movies. And, whether you think Compliance is horror or not, someone else does. It made my list that year. Although, I've already been raked over the coals for my fringe lists in the past.
I love that saying. I've never heard that saying until we recorded this episode. Raked over the coals. I love it.
Would you rather say I've been crucified for my... for my fringe lists?
I like raked over the coals. I'm going to use that.
Crucified's a little too strong.
How I've been keel hauled for my fringe lists.
This is going to keep on going.
We're already running long. Yeah. So. All right, final thoughts. What is horror?
Well, I guess, as I was saying before, a lot of times it's just a matter of personal belief and definition and what necessarily counts as horror. But at the same time, like Jonathan was saying, that, even if it doesn't necessarily scare you or fit into your own definition of what horror is, a movie can still be a horror movie for other people. But yeah, at the end of the day, like a lot of the big stuff, even if it's not acknowledged as straight up horror movies, we have to respect and acknowledge that there's definitely an influence of the horror genre within them.
And I just think that at the end of the day, it's a label. And I don't really think it's that much up for debate because it's a way of finding something. It's a way to categorize something. It's the same with music. Like I'll remember when I worked at a record store when we finally moved Taylor Swift over from country to pop. It's because she was doing more pop stuff now. I know that's a ridiculous example, but that's for a long time she was a country singer and she made country music, so we put her in country.
I remember when Nirvana became classic rock.
I bet that was a hard day for you.
Made me feel old. I bought Nevermind the day it came out, and now it's classic rock.
But that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's a label. At the end of the day, Nirvana is still rock. I mean, you could even subcategorize it into grunge. You could even subcategorize it into classic rock now. But at the end of the day, it's rock. And it's going to be categorized as rock because that's what it fucking is. And it's the same with horror. At the end of the day, it's just a way of finding it so that you don't have to search the entire store or search the entire Netflix catalog. It's a way of categorizing things. And the fact that it's so often up to debate and often it's for either to distance itself critically or to prove a point on how it didn't scare you is ridiculous. At the end of the day, no other genre is, raked over the coals like this. What is on what its classification is. And again, it's a classification process.
I think it's horror if it's on Shudder. No, I mean, actually, there's something to that. But I think that horror fans should start embracing the horror tag rather than fighting. Movies like It and Hereditary and Dawn of the Dead, they're absolutely horror movies. Embrace them. Even if you don't like them, be happy when a horror movie, and I'm going to say a horror movie, like Get Out, gets an Oscar nomination. When Silence of the Lambs cleans up the top 5. Yeah, a horror movie did that. Just embrace it. Be proud of the genre that you supposedly love.
Yeah.
A message to all horror bros.
Well, the more successful horror movies are, the more of them are going to be made.
Yeah.
And better quality ones.
Well, that's the thing. The more horror movies that are made, there's more of a chance of one being made that you're going to love. So, yeah, embrace it.
Yeah.
Love your genre.
Anything else? Have we beat this dead horse?
Yeah.
Oh, that horse is beaten.
It's dead and it's in the pet cemetery.
It'll
so
come
it'll
back.
Be back.
Exactly.
We'll be bitching about this again in a few weeks.
Probably.
Let's get out of here. We want to give a shout out to our buddy Waylon Jordan and his podcast. Mm-hmm. It's called Among the Shadows. You may have seen when we didn't post an episode, we posted up a link to his. His is real. It's real paranormal investigating on his. So. Give him, if you're into that, give him a listen because he's real knowledgeable. He knows his stuff. That's what real knowledgeable means. I just totally. People say I'm redundant, that I repeat myself, that I say things over and over again. So yeah, go check out Among the Shadows.
But he does. He's so knowledgeable. He's just able to do the entire episode himself. We need 3 people to fill an hour. This guy does it all by himself.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't need a sounding board.
No,
he is his own accomplice.
I just also want to give a shout out also to Waylon. He's been killing it this month. Of course, now it's going to be July when this episode comes out, but all of June for Pride Month, he's been talking about LGBTQ plus people in horror and writing articles about it. And he's just been doing a really great job highlighting what's often not talked about, especially with our genre, but is a huge part of our genre as well. So if you get a chance, go through iHorror.com, look up his articles about Horror Pride Month, especially his article about James Wells I read, and I know a lot
Speaking of Frankenstein, I know a lot about James Wells. He's one of my favorite directors, so the fact that he wrote such a nice article about him really meant a lot to myself. So take the time, look through it, and you'll be able to learn about new voices or get a different perspective on something that you already know a bit about. Right on. Well, our theme song, as always, is DMP, Death Metal Pope. Woo! So give them a check. And our artwork, as always, is Chris Fisher. So give him a poke as well. And you can find us on Facebook, the Eye on Horror Facebook page. So give us a like, and you can get a hold of any of us there. You can find me, James J. Edwards, on Twitter at Cinemafirite. Where can we find you guys?
You can find me, Jacob Davison, at Jacob Davison _. That is at JACOB DAVISON _ on Twitter.
And you can find me, Jonathan Correa, on Twitter at Korean Barbecue. That's CORREIAN BBQ. I promise to be more active, as I haven't been in ever. But I'll post more interesting stuff.
All right. So we'll see you next time. For me, James J. Edwards.
And Jacob Davison.
And I'm Jonathan Correa.
Keep your eye on horror.